I'm going to take you through the heartbreaking story of Srebrenica, where over 8,000 lives were lost. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the deep impact these events had on history and humanity. This tragic event is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of war and genocide. As we delve into the events that unfolded, I want you to remember that the story of Srebrenica is not just a chapter in history, but a warning for our collective future. The significance of Srebrenica cannot be overstated. It's a brutal reminder of the atrocities that humans are capable of committing and the devastating impact that war has on innocent civilians. As we move forward in this documentary, I want you to keep in mind the gravity of the events that we're about to explore. In the years that followed the Srebrenica Massacre, the world was left grappling with the question of how such an atrocity could have occurred. It's a question that has haunted us ever since, and one that we'll explore in depth as we move forward. The Bosnian War was a complex and multifaceted conflict that involved various ethnic groups, political factions, and foreign powers. At its core, however, it was a struggle for power and control in a region torn apart by centuries of ethnic and religious tensions. The war was fought between the Bosniaks, who were predominantly Muslim, the Croats, who were predominantly Catholic, and the Serbs, who were predominantly Orthodox Christian. In the early 1990s, Bosnia and Herzegovina declared its independence from Yugoslavia, sparking a brutal and devastating conflict that would last for nearly 4 years. The war was marked by widespread violence, ethnic cleansing, and human rights abuses, with all sides committing atrocities against civilians. As the conflict raged on, the United States and the European Union imposed economic sanctions on Serbia, and NATO intervened militarily to enforce a ceasefire and protect civilians. However, despite these efforts, the war continued to claim thousands of lives and displace millions of people. In 1995, the international community declared Srebrenica a UN-protected safe zone, promising to protect its civilians from harm. However, in July of that year, Bosnian Serb forces, led by General Ratko Mladic, launched a brutal attack on the town, killing over 8,000 Bosniak men and boys and expelling thousands of women and children from their homes. The massacre was meticulously planned and executed, with soldiers and police officers separating the men from the women and children and then transporting them to execution sites. The victims were brutally murdered, with many being buried in mass graves, and their bodies later exhumed and reburied in an attempt to conceal the evidence. The events that unfolded in Srebrenica were nothing short of horrific. Survivors recount stories of being forced to watch their loved ones being killed and of being subjected to unimaginable violence and trauma. The psychological scars of these events still linger today, with many survivors continuing to struggle with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. The Srebrenica Massacre was not just a tragedy, it was a crime against humanity. It was a calculated and deliberate attempt to erase an entire community from the face of the earth. The perpetrators of this crime were driven by a twisted ideology that sought to cleanse the region of its Muslim population. In the aftermath of the massacre, the international community was left reeling. How could such an atrocity have occurred, despite the presence of UN peacekeepers and the promises of protection? The failure of the international community to prevent the massacre was a stark reminder of the limitations of international law and the need for more effective mechanisms to prevent genocide. The victims of Srebrenica are not just numbers or statistics. They are human beings who were brutally murdered and whose lives were cut short by senseless violence. They are the fathers, sons, brothers, and friends who were killed simply because of their ethnicity and religion. The Srebrenica Massacre also raises important questions about the role of the international community in preventing genocide. How can we ensure that such atrocities never happen again? What more can we do to prevent the descent into chaos and violence? In the years that followed the massacre, the international community struggled to come to terms with what had happened. There were attempts to bring those responsible to justice, but progress was slow, and many perpetrators remained at large. Today, Srebrenica is a symbol of resilience and hope. The town has been rebuilt, and the survivors have worked tirelessly to rebuild their lives and communities. However, the scars of the past still linger, and the memory of the victims continues to haunt us. The story of Srebrenica is a powerful reminder of the importance of remembrance and commemoration. We must never forget the victims of this tragedy, and we must continue to strive for a world where such atrocities can never occur again. As we move forward, it's essential that we learn from the lessons of Srebrenica. We must recognize the warning signs of genocide and take action to prevent it. We must hold those responsible for atrocities accountable, and we must work towards a more just and equitable world. The story of Srebrenica is not just a tragedy. It's a call to action. It's a reminder that we have a collective responsibility to protect human life and dignity. It's a call to stand up against hatred, discrimination, and violence, and to work towards a brighter future for all humanity. As we reflect on the lessons of Srebrenica, and if you're passionate about exploring more stories like this one, where history and crime intertwine, be sure to check out our true crime history-themed designs at histoedutainment.com that commemorate these pivotal moments in true crime history. In conclusion, the story of Srebrenica is a powerful reminder of the darkest aspects of human nature, but it's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and our capacity to rebuild and renew. I encourage you to further explore the events of Srebrenica and to learn more about the importance of remembrance and commemoration. There are many excellent documentaries and resources available that provide more in-depth information on this topic. Thank you for watching, and see you at our next True Crime History video.